Серега и Женя за то, что выступили на разогреве. Также они рассказали о том, что бывает после того, как по вам...
Okay, hello everyone. I will say a few words about surveillance and how you can prevent it so that you shouldn't be, unhappy about being cracked for half a year. Okay, my name is Dmitry Mahayev. I'm in Rostelecom Solar and I do Cyberintelligence. And that's what I'll be talking about today. Okay, how do we obtain information about the attacks being prepared and really happening now? We don't have many options, by the way. Okay, this is a simplified picture, but, well, usually there are some community posts about this. And another way to obtain information about attacks is to deal with your friends from various companies and communicate in a close chat, and people can exchange, this penetration stories. Sometimes jackals send data to some leakage channels, and it's really painful to see this. And it's a bit less painful to see leaked data from your partner company. Because, well, in this case, you can have this suspicion. If your partner has been hacked, maybe this is a supply chain attack. Maybe through your partner, they can hack you. And so maybe your data is also there and hasn't been posted yet. So this is quite unpleasant, isn't it? One of the top ways to obtain information about attacks, which is really reliable, is to obtain information from your SOC and MSS MDR provider. Here it is self-explanatory. So if they have found something, then this attack is either going on or just taken off or further progressing. Another way is to read various reports from Casper, Bison, Solar, and other security vendors, and you try to apply these indicators to your infrastructure. And this is a good way, by the way. You should keep in mind, though, that not all the indicators are certain to be mentioned there. Some vendors sell the REST indicators. Some vendors just overlook the indicators because they didn't face it. Another way is to read Alexei Viktorovich's blog, to read the information about the attack vectors and try to apply this to your infrastructure. Usually you do this empirically. And the most popular, based on my information list, I'll say the most widely spread way to do it is to talk to an OSINTer who starts telling you the stories. Well, I read in one secret channel that a database had been leaked from your company, and you know what they had there? Oh, they had so much. So you had this OSINT pearls, and then they asked you for some money for disclosing the rest of the story. Okay, what's the problem behind this? Okay, you can obtain some information about the attack, but talking about the SOC scenario, for instance, you can have no context for decision making. It's not always there. So if somebody tells you about the attack, or you read it in a report, and if the attack is going on, you might be pressed against time to prepare. Quite often, what the friends tell you, what you read in the chats or the reports, well, okay, we'll forget about the reports. Sometimes the reports tell you the story about the way you'll be attacked. But in the other cases, it's not always so. And sometimes they can be biased or subjective when they start talking. I mean, these OSINTers, or some other people who want to show how important they are and not necessarily caring for your company's security. Okay. Let's talk about OSINT and what it is. You know, a layman's approach to this is like that. This is a good way to use the IP and to get the guy. Well, actually, OSINT is not directly cyber intelligence. Sometimes they say that this is brand protection, so sometimes they say that it is the same, but you know, brand protection is not about OSINT. And the main focus of brand protection is the brand fraud related risks, social media and media fraud. And you know, cyber intelligence is focused on technical risks, some nuts and bolts and events and possible intelligence. Zhenya Voloshin from Byzant told you this case where they started talking to the offender, trying to understand how the guy obtains the data, and they found the point of entry, and they managed to prevent an incident. Okay. Having said that, I'd like to mention the key dimensions of OSINT. There are some examples. One of really popular things is so-called SOCINT, or social media intelligence. They also have signature int, SIGINT, and this is well, we as commercial companies, we don't do this primarily. We don't do scientific and technical intelligence. That's what intelligence and security services do. We don't do electronic intelligence, but we sometimes do geo-int. So we look at the satellite images. And we also quite often do HUMINT, where we try to deal with humans, with those who sell information, those who try to somehow exchange this information for our money. And financial intelligence, FinInt. Okay, strictly speaking, financial intelligence is primarily about gross feed monitoring. But if you go into detail, you can find this to be a very interesting tool to investigate some ransomware-related attacks or other attacks where they are trying to get some money from you. So if we know the crypto wallet, we can try to find the perpetrator if we don't have any other ways to do it. Okay. What is part of cyber intelligence, of the things I have mentioned? That's quite straightforward. We start with the social part of it. Monitoring Twitter, monitoring any other social media, where the fraudsters boast of their achievements or announce their future feats. Like in Twitter, they say Rostelecom has their router cracked, so they are doomed. And this information should be verified, because more often than not, you say that this is not Rostelecom, but some local provider, and this is not a good router. So it's just the client's small device which is popping up in this network for some reason. Okay, financial intelligence. I have talked about crypto. Let me give you some other details. Okay, they sell databases, which is typical, and you can use various ways by knowing the e-wallet number. You can try to get some idea of who did it, like the group, for instance. So you can attribute it to a group so that you can use some technical identification tools like computation identifier, compromise identifier, and identifying the attackers. Okay, HUMINT, negotiations with fraudsters. To make this run smoothly, you should be available at forums, and you should be present at Telegram channels you shouldn't forget about channels and other messages apart from Telegram, like Discord. Many people forget about Discord in this perspective. And also threat intelligence. So this is a classical example, which is not OSINT, but it is used in cyber intelligence. And I'll share some examples with you later. And cyber intelligence primarily tries to identify an attack at the planning stage. So we are not firefighting, haven't been attacked and looking for the bad actor, but we are trying to prevent rather. And if we talk about an attack against a large, say, government organization, you can partner with the law enforcement agencies and try to use some legally available tools to prevent an offense. Okay, what is cyber intelligence? The way we see it, I think that you have a clear idea now. Let us give you some more background. Okay, cyber intelligence should provide some feed, and this is a set of sources like Telegram channels, some shadow platforms, and communities, sometimes legal, and they can share a lot of important information with us, and they can help us, indeed. And some technical methods like passive DNS, strange as it might seem, it gives you a lot of information. The network connection is something which can tell you a lot about the attack, or maybe everything. Honeypots. We do love them, and we also go through a malware share and virus share and some other exchanges. Social media and media. So in media you can find some information which can be further verified. So you deal with the sources, and this is a part of cyber intelligence. Sure, this should be done by a team rather than one person. Okay, what are the data? Okay, exploits and any databases which can help us find things. Crypto wallets, so we should monitor platforms and the feeds of third parties. So if we see any information from any other organization, and we can see an indicator of compromise, so we can assume who is going to do it and how they're going to do it. So if the feed is of high quality, this becomes clear. Analytics, this is a must-have thing. This is to glue all this thing together and can be used to filter out the things we need. And the final thing is reports. Okay, reports, which is boring, but this is really important. This is why we need cyber intelligence. We need to inform in a concise way the clients. Okay, so we see penetrations. Penetrations, they are not cyber intelligence. So we talk about the economic security service, and they don't really care about cyber intelligence. So this group of users, they need a big red button. So they need to obtain information about people, for instance. So they have Telegram bots. So you can just press the button to find all the information about people. And okay, threat intelligence. So we can talk about SITs and OSINT. Okay, if cybersecurity is considered comprehensively, so it's not only OSINT, so then threat intelligence is a really important technical component of this. And there we have indicators we can find in the system, or we can install our monitoring systems to identify the attacker. The technologies and vulnerabilities which can be used for an attack. So we know, for instance, what's going on. Say you go to a cybersecurity or cyberintelligence company, you can say that you have the services, the technologies, and their versions. And understanding all this, you understand the attack landscape. So we can understand what the attackers can target. So when you know the techniques and approaches and procedures of the attackers, we can give you a more or less clear chain of events of the way they're going to try to crack you. So this is technical. Organizationally speaking, who is going to do it? Like, so what their target is. And this is to be clarified by OSINT. Okay. The sources of information. Okay. Profile platforms and communities of experts. I think it's easier to make it to the community. I think that following the forum, many of you will find a lot of ways to make it to the well-spread communities of experts, which can let you find an access to a more focused community. The APT reports, the reports from vendors, feeds. Don't forget about various search engines, which are like Shodan, Zumai, and Fofa for the shadow internet. Please have a look at the Chinese analogs of Shodan, since China is ahead of everyone, and their results are much better than from Shodan, for instance. And social media and various malware aggregators. So every expert should have access to this. If you don't know how to obtain access to malware, so you go to stage 1, the profile platform, then a community of experts, and then you try to find a way to get this access. So you get access to closed resources through open, dedicated platforms. That's how it usually starts. And we have quite a lot of information. So what can we do about it? Okay, you can try to sort it out manually, but this is not the way. This will be a lot of time consuming, and we will lose value in our cyber intelligence, meaning that information should be gathered, collated, and processed, and it should be quickly and concisely provided. So we have to automate things as we can. Okay, we parse the APT reports. This is easily automated. Information from Shodan, Netless, etc. So we get information. So you have APIs. So this is not a know-how exactly. Then correlations. Well, correlations can and should be automated, and this should be done. Well, by correlation, we mean this. We combine and analyze all the data obtained from Shodan's other sites, and sometimes from database leakages or leaks. Threat intelligence. Okay, this is automated. Say 95% of this, I think, is automated, and you can easily obtain data from this place. Okay, talking about leaks. We have some specific issues here. On one hand, the leaks you can find in the channels are versatile. Sometimes it is in the Chronos format, sometimes it is in the text format, sometimes it's SQL. And trying to normalize all the data to find a common denominator for all this so that you can further process this. So this can be an uphill job, similarly. But this is easily done, as a matter of fact. But it takes some effort from your development team. If you don't have your development team, then your analysts will have to invest some effort to develop some scripts to slice and dice the data the way you want it, getting rid of the garbage. And strange as it might seem, almost every leak from almost every company might have some data you are interested in, and it is limited, like emails, the password hash you can brute force, and most likely some specific data if you work for a customer. So use this for the database, and the rest can be thrown away as garbage. Reports should be drafted in an automated way in any case, because we are running against time. And if it takes us long, and if we have some manual input here, then we'll lose advantage. The attacker will be able to steal all the data before we can notify the target of the attack. Okay, manual input is there anyway. Sometimes the parser will not work properly, sometimes you need to use your brain for correlation, sometimes you need some other tasks to be performed manually. Okay, we have gathered information, and now we are analyzing this. How are we doing this? Well, number one, we should get rid of the garbage. And there are many fake messages saying we have cracked something, we have licked the base, we have done this or that. You start verifying this, and then you see that this is a Photoshop screenshot. The data was taken from some ancient time, and so on and so forth. So this is useless information. But you should be careful here. Some foreign companies like taking the screenshots and spreading them through the media, so you know why. So dealing with the fake messages is a really important step, one of the first steps, I would say. And there you should cut off the fraudulent data. So if you know that this company isn't there at all, so we understand that this is irrelevant, so we can get rid of this. Unquestionable data should be revised and double-checked. If you have any suspicion, please double-check. Then we normalize it so that we can further deal with it and add it to our big database. And then we analyze the things we have collected and try to aggregate this with the previously obtained data. Enrichment. It should be there. So we are talking about enrichment at this stage. This means that we try to use as many sources as we can to obtain new information. Reports auto-generation. Okay, any process should result in a report. Reports differ in types, and more often than not, people are happy with a brief summary of the things we have gathered, analyzed, and can share with recommendations on protection. And one more thing. We have gathered everything, well, similarly. We have kind of sealed the case, but then it turns out that the one who wants to obtain data from us has some other ways or means they are trying to sell. Okay, we can get in touch with this person and maybe buy something. Maybe we don't buy it. So this is purely OSINT work. So we need to obtain at least some data, some financial data, to use it to identify the person. Why? Okay. This is a number 2 question. We usually do it together with the LIAS. Okay, this is an overall process. So we get information on compromise, the feeds. So this is passive collection of data on the companies under protection. So we have some tools to do this, and this is done in an automated way, and this is fed into the database. Then we have the analyst who is gathering data from various sources. This can include Telegram channels, this could be forums and specialized platforms. And there we have automated pre-processing of the information gathered from the leaks. We should compare it to the historical data. Recently, we have seen some lists of leaks which are redresses of the previous leaks, like the big cracks of big companies. But these are not new cracks, they're the old ones. And it's really important to identify this information before it goes to media or becomes public in any other way. So the data is anonymized and fed into one big database. So we are trying to correlate leaks in an automated way with the known data from the feeds, and then all of this stuff goes to the interface of the analyst, and there it can be enriched or it can be used for an outright report generation process. Here is the interface. I have concealed some of the data. Well, it's not good to show this, it's unethical. Okay. The leaks are sorted in an automated way. They are split by the criterion whether we have the customer or not. Okay, if it's not our customer, then everybody is happy. We have this green sign, but the leak is in the base anyway. We run some retrospective checks on these leaks, and we can use it to obtain more information, like a description, what it is, where it was downloaded, who published it, and so on and so forth, and the number of unique entries too. If we have our customers in this leak, then we identify them in an automated way, and we see them to the right. And we can connect it to the TI data. So some of these leaks previously shown happened because the Bittrex plugin was outdated. Okay, so we sent to the system the versions of the Bittrex. So this is an old one. This is a specific case. The vulnerabilities, the description of vulnerabilities and exploits to the module. And this way we kind of understand how they crack those. So if they have the Bittrex structure in the base, so they have an exploit, so then you more or less see the whole chain of events. Now we are drafting a report. It should be formalized and automated as far as we can. For a high-quality report, an analyst should have a look at this. So if you generate it in an automated way and it goes public, you can have some issues. Sometimes you can reveal the data you shouldn't reveal, or the data can be wrong outright. Okay, I have talked about reports for a lot of times, but anyway, this concludes everything. But there is another thing. If we overload people with reports and other documents, they will not be interested in this work anymore, and it will happen like that, like in the past. People would not be active at all.
What is needed so that the cyber attack is regularly is good? You have to make profiles of your recipients, meaning those who are going to get those reports, those who economic security should be removed, meaning that they have a big red button and they're not interested in that. But in the sense we have CISO, they would need some statistics and some legal risks being identified. Legal risks in most cases are deformalized. So there is no problem with them, and anyway, you have to confer in your legal guise. Technicians have to actually get the information how that data was hacked. What technical features are there? What bottlenecks are there? This is a kind of a cyber response to the situation. Make links to exploits and features in order to prevent the attack. And compromising effects have to be identified with the links to some feeds. Security service has to know the list of users who are running the risk, and this proceeds from the risk of databases, hack analysis. Usually there would be names, corporate mails, potential phone numbers. And you have to treat these users very seriously and equip them with passwords, because this is a potential way to penetrate into your situation. Then, where the leak took place, who is the initiator, who might be the beneficiary of that leak, legal risks. This goes without saying. And personified risks. Personified risks is when actually you have a leak where a top manager or VIP guy is, or vice versa. Meaning that the organization is so cool that you have to keep a lot of accompanying data. For instance, the phones of administrators of someone else, anyone else, and if actually these phone numbers would be leaked, then we may run into the situation when the targeted phishing attacks take place against them. And it might be a classical social engineering attack, meaning trying to extort money, or this is when a person would be blackmailed in order to provide an access to the corporate system. And custom report is totally manual, and it is being done by request and may include OSINT investigation, just like the previous guys told you about. And the whole chain would be identified in order to somehow investigate into who did it and why he or she did it. Let's speak about the ChatGPT and AI. So there is a big temptation to use ChatGPT when creating reports, developments, and when actually doing any intelligence. You ask a question, and ChatGPT will provide you with an answer, and everything would be happy, seemingly. But ChatGPT actually has been trained using the model of 2002 and may be not knowledgeable of the current realities. And sometimes it uses a lot of wishful thinking, changing the context. That's an example. When we asked ChatGPT who Alexei Lukatsky is, and the answer was quite right. So this is an expert in cybersecurity who works for Cisco Systems company. And at that moment, really, he worked for Cisco Systems, but the specialization is wrong. With all respect to Mr. Lukatsky, as far as I know, he has never been dealing with the malware analysis. And if you provide that answer to the report, then it means that the message would be totally wrong. You can use artificial intelligence, but with a grain of caution. When you're absolutely sure that the data would be right, or if you can double-check what the artificial intelligence rendered. If you cannot double-check that quickly, then probably you should not resort to AI. And to conclude, a couple of words about the image of a cyber-intelligence officer. Because sometimes you think that these are very special people, but they're not special, first of all. This is about a teamwork. No one can do anything alone. You have to break down into priorities. Everyone works in a team. common success is about achievement of everyone. There are no irreplaceable people. Every team member is a professional. I have to treat them with a lot of respect. Any idea which is being offered in a team should be at least listened to. If we criticize something, when we have to offer something, when if you comply with these things, then the cyber response would be quite simple. You take a leak, you take some technical information, and a lot of technical information, by the way, and you try to mix these things and to render some interesting, some significant results. And stick to the time limit, 45 minutes, that were earmarked to me. And so should you have any questions, you're most welcome, please. Hi. Panov Nikita. Do I understand it correctly that intelligence is not equal as cyber response? Well, this is a very arbitrary question. We can discuss that outside the conference. Then the second part of the question, if I may. For instance, I'm talking to my Western partners in English. I want to tell them, cyber intelligence, what term do I use? In English, probably it would be close to DRP. Hi, thank you so much for your report. I have two questions. Have you ever run into the situation of counterintelligence, where some malicious hackers probably would generate a lot of junk reports based on some real data, would select an exploit in order to get the real data from the client, spamming you and providing junk data in order to mask the real leak? Well, in theory that's possible, but in practice I have not met that in real life. Probably for some small companies or for some small leakages in low-profile industries that actually could be done because that data cannot be verified. For instance, if the industry is a secret one, for instance, then that's a top-secret document of some top-secret organization, then any fake document cannot be verified, and this is up to you to trust it or not. And we'll have to be guided by the Opta analytics. And analysts may find some discrepancies between how the document was executed and the standards, where, for instance, it may follow the standards but would use the abbreviations which are not used by the company. Or, for instance, take a recent case when a guy from the United States published a lot of top-secret documents of the United States. First, it was believed that he is publishing some junk documents, some fake documents, so there were a lot of abbreviations, and when they started an investigation, it turned out that for 2 months the real top-secret documents were being published. Good afternoon, my name is Sergei Alexander from Glavny Sabitye company. I thought that cyberintelligence is a kind of a teamwork, and I understand that this is up to big companies with big budgets. So does it mean that SMEs would remain without protection, or are there any solutions to that? Well, if I got your question right, cyber response really is a teamwork, and the smaller companies, for instance, once you are working alone, you actually may have only one person responsible for that, but this is up to the quality of the services and the experience of this or that person. For instance, the company 150 people strong, how actually much money you have to dedicate to the cyberintelligence. Some software costs or salaries, etc. Can you give me any figures? Well, I'm not sure about the salaries of these people, but I speak about the budget that you need. You have to find some competent sources and look at their service cost. It might be $100 in order to enter some close club, some budget to get some data, to buy certain data pertinent to your company, and this budget also may be written off as some irrevocable losses, because there is no guarantee that the buyer will not let you down. So I find it difficult. These might be 100,000 or it might be a billion. Good afternoon. I have two questions. The first, any remarkable attack, and do you have an experience of working with the security services? Well, as for the successful rejection of an attack is concerned, yes, we did have it. When we managed to repel an attack against a big company, as far as I remember, one child published a note, so let us attack this or that company, and our analyst was there. So usually there might be numerous such statements, and it would not go further than just calling for an attack against the company. But then it was followed by some detailed recommendations how to attack the company, and the external perimeter was being scanned, and then we scanned the external perimeter of a company, and we got the data that actually the data is quite right. Following that recommendation, following that investigation, we recommended to close these and that loopholes, and the attack never happened. Probably this is a successful case of how we repelled an attack. No, I'm not sure. Today's search engines are introducing AI, and we know that OSINTers are using such a tool as targeted inquiries and neural network may differ the OSINTer's inquiry from a regular inquiry, and it might result in the fact that this tool would be banned somehow. How we can get prepared for that? The parsing of the inquiry response was blocked, and then it was no longer used. Well, when some such result is being blocked, then you can bypass that tool, so you can bypass capture, and there are some alternative ways. And capture might be used, and when you identify actual research results, you will see that the same information could obtained another way, as if capture had been used, and the same is true of almost everything. How much powerful AI could be now, it is not so mature to make you get rid of the manual work, so it cannot be used automatically. There are always options. Good afternoon. You said that each your employee is a niche specialist, not a universal one. What are the main roles? What roles are being played by the people in the cyberintelligence? So there are people. We are a self-sufficient company, and we have certain departments that are they try somehow to process the data, and the technical department will get some instructions from the analysts and some scripts which would be made by the analysts on the back of the envelopes of some niche tasks. And these things may be adapted in order to use that permanently. Then in the development department, there might be people who would be doing parsers, would support database, and there would be other people who would be making the front-end pictures so that the end user is happy with the report. Well, actually, there might be some department, 5 people strong, to do the cyber intelligence. Don't you know? For instance, in Moscow, how many teams are there? Actually, for instance, 100 teams dealing with cyber intelligence, 100 people each. So if we consider that as a business, have you ever considered cyber intelligence as a market? How strong that market is? Well, you probably have to go to the full-hour track and they will tell you more about that. Good afternoon and thank you so much for the report. I have the following question. Are there any regulations on cyber intelligence? No, nothing like that. At the moment, that's a space which is not regulated at all. And actually, everyone has their own understanding of cyber intelligence. I told you about Solar's cyber intelligence, and once you go to Bizon, they would tell you almost the same thing, but would complement that with something else. So it means that every company develops their own methodology, sequence and algorithms. Absolutely, absolutely. Good afternoon. My name is Dmitry. I have a question about the resources. How many people in your company are getting rid of the junk information and doing analytical work? And how long are you storing the logs? And what is the storage capacity for the logs? Well, we are storing that forever. We have not yet get to the situation when we do not have the capacity to store that. In terms of the people, we have about 9 people dealing with that. Okay, thank you so much. I see that there are no more questions. Then thank you so much. Thank you for a very good question. Here is your T-shirt.